Right, you lot, in today's video I'm going to be talking about West Ham's fullbacks, because one thing I've realised over social media in the last couple of days when I've been doing these videos is we haven't spent a lot of money at all compared to other areas, and it's the area now that we're struggling the most. So I kind of want to cover a little bit about the spend that's been put into that area and why I feel that it's been so poorly invested in. And you can see that by the range of signings that we've had, and it all coincides with the owners. So you'll see that not only are they cheap signings, they have very, very little resale value. So we've spent 16.74 million since 2010 on fullbacks. That's both left and right. The most expensive signing is Arthur Masuaku at 6.4. You've then got Aaron Creswell at 4.3, and interestingly enough, you've got Sam Byram at 4.3 as well. And everything else is minimal. I think you've got Wayne Bridge on there for like, I think it's like £730,000 loan fee. So I just thought that was crazy. I just thought we're a Premier League side and we failed to address an area. You know, it's becoming more and more crucial in the modern day game. You look at Liverpool now with Andy Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold. You know, fullbacks are as a bigger part of an attacking side of the game as they are a defensive. And I think the commonality really with both our left and right back, Aaron Creswell, Ryan Fredericks, is they're not very effective going forward, and definitely defensively they're struggling a lot. So I'm not surprised we're in this situation, but I think we've sort of been very lucky in certain aspects with this area. So if you look at some of the signings we've made, George McCartney coming at left back, I think it was 2012 when we were in the Championship, and he stayed with us for about 2 or 3 seasons, and he was a solid performer there. You know, we were a team that was fighting against relegation. We wanted to stay in the league for 2-3 years. He did a great job. We knew what we were going to get from him. You know, he wasn't going to come forward and start contributing massively in terms of assists, but a solid player nonetheless. But then you start moving through and thinking about it. You've got people like Zabaleta was brought in 2017. He was on higher wages, but he was just over his peak, and it was the same story. You know, he wasn't getting forward as much because his legs weren't necessarily there. He was a hard worker. I think Zabaleta was a good role model for the team, but he wasn't the same player that we saw at Manchester City. And again, that was a free signing. Fredericks, a free signing from Fulham, comes up from the Championship. An attacking player, but we just haven't seen enough from him. There's not that quality of delivery that you need in the Premier League. And so it's no surprise that now we're struggling, you know, and we're not really investing somewhere that needs to be. I think for some kind of reprieve, we've lucked out a little bit with someone like Ben Johnson. He's coming to the side, he looks strong, he's good going forward and going back. And it's kind of the reason why I've been so adamant on getting someone like a Rico Henry or Matty Cash in. I know Matty Cash is now no longer a transfer target, whatever the reason is for that. Read into it what you will, but we haven't spent a lot of money in these areas, so I think it could be down to the transfer fee. But Rico Henry certainly is as good as getting forward as he is as defending. Supports the winger. Is good defensively, wins a lot of tackles, can come inside, is creative. He's a really good modern day fullback, and someone who we should be looking at investing in. But interestingly enough, when I looked at this list as well, you see 2 of our left backs are our biggest signings. You know, Creswell for the 4.3 and Masuaku for the 6.4. Masuaku is our most expensive fullback signing, which, given his defensive capabilities, is slightly strange. You know, he's not very reliable in that position. I wouldn't even call him a left back, to be honest. He's more of a left wing or a pusher wing back. So it is interesting, our recruitment in these areas. It's a common theme, and you can look it up in terms of the players we've signed in midfield and up front. But defensively, West Ham's outlay is really, really poor, and I just thought this is why we've got the imbalance in the squad. This is why we're struggling, where we've got too many wingers, but we haven't got enough defensive players. And it's because someone at the club, now I don't know who it is, someone at the club has identified that we have to have attacking talent in every single area. And unfortunately for us now, it means that in games against the bigger teams, we're getting exposed. Why? Because we haven't made the right investment in these areas. The players, if anything, someone like a Creswell is now past his peak. Fredericks isn't good enough quality. And because we haven't looked into these areas effectively, we as a team will potentially slip up next season. You know, there will be the games where we can get picked off because we haven't addressed it. My massive concern is twofold. One, we haven't moved in this market yet for a fullback. You know, the fact that Anthony Robinson was available for £2 million, which I believe there's a huge resale value there, given obviously his high potential, and he's done well for Wigan, and it's a low risk. That's how I would identify it. £2 million for that is not a lot at all. Matt Cash out there for a 15 mil, Rico for a 10. You know, if West Ham want to improve in those areas, you've got to spend the money. You know, and it's crucial. You've got to get that defence right. You have to get that defence right. But I just thought really interesting, and even in the right back, you know, you've got Sam Byron, 4.3, and we sold him for 740,000 back to Norwich. So yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? It's a tough one with those fullbacks. It's just interesting to see that trend of West Ham where we're not making the right moves. And I think in this market as well, and this transfer window in particular, it's so crucial we get those players in, because I don't think it's just a case of them contributing themselves. I actually think when you look at teams that have got strong defensive players, they allow the attacking players to do their job, and it could get the best out of players like an Anderson, which in this market, it looks highly unlikely we're going to sell him, highly unlikely we'll get the money back. So if we could go and potentially keep him in the team and give him sort of a little more of an attacking role, we might see the best out of him still. But we never will know, really, until obviously next season. But that's my take on the fullbacks. I might do a few little takes on the other signings and see that imbalance in the squad, because it is really interesting to look at the spend since they've come in, and particularly now how it's affecting us. So, as always, take care.